clicky thing.
Oh, there we go. It looks like we are live. Yeah. I think, let me switch over to our tab here. Yep.
We're live?
Yes. Okay, there we go. Hello, everybody. I am Kitty, or as most of you guys know me as KM Shea, and I am here with my good friend, WR Gingell. And am I pronouncing that right?
Nearly. Gingell.
Gingell. Okay. Okay. Not at all, but thank you for saying that. It makes me feel better. But yeah, and we are here with WR Gingell. That time I got it right?
Yes, you got it right. Just 1 second. I have my phone going. There we go. Okay, I turned it off. It was talking to me.
Perfect. Yes, I had to silence comments earlier. But so we are here to wrap up the 2019 summer read along. This year we ended up reading her absolutely amazing, the amazing first 4 books of her City Between series. And I've fallen in love with it. So that's why I was really glad that you guys, all my champions, agreed to read along with me. And we've had a fun-filled month. And thankfully, Wendy was willing to come talk to us for this live event, and then also for all of those little mini questionnaires we kind of did at the beginning of each week over on my website. So we are live. So if you guys have any questions, or if you just want to say hi, go ahead and leave them in the chat. We're actually trying to figure this out as we're trying to learn as we go. So if anybody is watching right now, please leave us a comment so we can figure out where they're going to show up. I would really appreciate that. Thank you. And let me make sure everything is pulling up. Yes. Okay. I'm a little paranoid to make sure that this works. But yeah. Okay. Hi, Wendy. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing really well, thank you. It's fairly early here on a Saturday. Well, not fairly early. I've just been sleeping in lately. So I've got my morning voice on. Excuse me.
That's okay. Yeah, it was actually kind of interesting when I was trying to figure out the logistics. I'm glad Wendy very nicely was the one who figured out what kind of time zone we had to use and time frame and all that kind of stuff. So I was, yeah. Yeah, when it's like, okay, it's this day for me, but it's this day for you, then it's like, oh, that's no, that's math. All right, let's see. Yes, we are getting comments, so that's fabulous. Hello, Carl, and hello, Mackenzie. Let's see. I'm glad that you guys have enjoyed the City Between series. That's really exciting. Okay, so we are going to get started with just a few general questions. As I said before, you guys can go ahead and leave comments in the comments, which I think are actually on the sidebar. I don't think they're down below right now while we're live, but so we are going to start. Let's see. I have a couple of general questions I wanted to ask. Okay. We're going to start with one that I'm positive is going to be asked again, but I feel like it's a good one to go with. Wendy, what is your planned publishing schedule for the rest of the year? Which is basically, when can we expect to see the next City Between series book?
For the City Between series, that should be by Christmas time. I'm hoping to have everything set up so that it'll be a Christmas release, maybe a little bit before. So if you want to get a Christmas present for yourself, there you go. I helped you out. I do have 2 others. It was meant to be 3 others I was working on as well. I'm supposed to be finishing up Lady of Weeds, which is being released month by month, 1 chapter per month. So I've got that one. And then the next 2 Monarchies book as well, which is Peter's story, Clockwork Magician. That one was meant to be coming out at the end of August, but it is being incredibly obstinate. So it may be a little bit longer, but in terms of getting stuff published, that one, Lady of Weeds, and The City Between number 5 will definitely all be published this year. I was hoping for 1 more, but I don't think that's going to happen. So that might have to be until next year, I think. But yeah, I was working on all 3 at once, but Lady of Weeds has gotten right to the point where I need to gather all the threads together, and it's really, really complicated at the moment. So I'm going to try and finish that one, then get back to the other 2 writing regularly. But yeah, by the end of the year, should have all 3 of those published.
Now, is Lady of Weeds, is that at all related to the Lady of Dreams book?
Yeah, it's the 2nd book in the series. They're technically standalones, but they do have an overarching thread that will be more apparent in each of them, and characters from each of the previous books will appear in each new book. At least one set of people from a previous book will appear in each successive book. So I think there'll be about 4 of those. It was meant to be Lady of Dreams, Lady of Weeds, Lady of Ink, and Lord of Spies. So I sort of know where the plot line's going, which is very unusual for me, but it's very nice to work with.
See, now I don't believe that, because like all the incredible depth that you've put in the City Between series, it's like some of the stuff when I look at things that when I was rereading the series to do the summer read along, it was incredible to me to see how in book 1 you would foreshadow stuff that happened in book 4. It was crazy.
I do actually, yeah, that series is, I always have a big picture idea. Like with the 2 monarchies, I had a whole circular idea that I wanted to explore. With City Between, it's much the same. Like I know, unusually enough for me, I know who the murderer is. I know the main thrust of the Airling Harbinger behind scenario, what's going to happen, what has happened. It's just mainly each separate book. I don't necessarily know what's exactly going to happen. Like I know the beats I have to hit, but apart from that, and I think my brain works a little bit weirdly. When I'm writing, I do thread things through that I know are going to feed in ahead. But a lot of the time, my brain seems to take those things that I've already written and then weave them into something else. So sometimes the plot line will change a little bit as I go. But with the City Between series, I haven't written much down, but it's all sitting in my head, which is probably why most of the time I don't know what day it is. So yeah, there's good points and bad points about that. So that one's probably the most complicated one that I've got on the go at the moment, and it's fairly clear in my head. So yeah, there's a lot plotted there.
That's impressive too, because you said that was also, I think, going to be your longest series, right, in terms of just sheer number of books.
Yeah, just to be able to get all of the plot line I need to get in, it's going to need to be at least 10 books. So yeah, it'll be my long series.
Mm-hmm.
Very exciting for me.
Well, awesome. I'm glad, but yeah, just because it's an incredible series. I'm finally getting a chance to read more of your other stuff now too, but I will be honest, City Between remains my favorite. There's just something about those characters that's like, oh, it might be though that it's able to be explored over, like, I know it's going to be a long series, so I'm letting myself get seriously attached. But
yeah, I'm a little bit attached at this point too. So I'm really enjoying writing them a lot. So
Well, that's good. That's great for both you as an author and then for us as the readers too. All right, I just want to say a quick hello to Mad Rose and Amy and Care. I'm glad you guys could join us, and just a general reminder to everybody who's watching, if you have any questions for Wendy or myself, you can go ahead and leave them in the comments on the sidebar below. I don't know where it is right now. This is the first time I'm running a YouTube live, so okay. The next general question I have, let me find it. Okay, so this doesn't have to necessarily be related to the City Between series, but what is the funniest story you have related to writing, whether it's City Between or any of your other books?
There's not too much really funny about the writing process, apart from the fact that I regularly go slightly mad at the end of each book. I get to the point where I know I can finish it and I know where it needs to go. I know what I have to write, but I have to sit down and do the work. So usually at that point, because I set deadlines for myself, I'll be at the point where I have a week to go and maybe 20 or 30,000 words to write. So I will have to literally sit down and write anywhere from 5 to 10,000 words each day. So especially toward the end of the week, because I cheat and I'm like, nah, I'll do the rest tomorrow. I get days where I have to do 10,000 words. So on those days, I will go more than slightly mad because I'll have to sit down in one place for like 2 hours, write as much as I can, then get up, go out to a cafe, do the same thing there, get up, go to another cafe, do the same thing there, all the while listening to my music. And as I'm doing that, my family gets slightly concerned because I'll just, every now and then I'll just have a moment where I'm like, ah, or just just like, no, I can't do this. I don't want to. I want to die. And I just sort of lay down on the table or the floor or whatever and just have a miniature meltdown and do absolutely nothing for about 5 minutes. And then I'm like, I have to get up and keep writing. Why do I do this to myself? I must be mad. And then I swear that I will never make another deadline or that I will actually write regularly each day instead of leaving it right till the end. And I just never do. Um, so that's pretty much as funny as it gets. What I have happen more often while I'm writing, especially when I was working at Woolworths full time while I was doing this, I've had several occasions where, like the first time it happened, I was just walking down an aisle, putting up tickets, and I would have dialogue in my head because my characters would be talking to each other. I'm trying to work out a scene. So basically, I'm here, just sort of talking to myself, mumbling, and then one of my characters would make a joke, and then I'm just here laughing. And I saw some movement in the corner of my eye, and I turned, and there's a customer just like, okay, and then they just turned and hurried down the next aisle. And I do that unfortunately all the time because I forget while I'm doing that. I seem to be able to keep working, but I forget that there are actual people, normal people around. And so the last time I was doing that, I was just shopping for someone. I was doing the personal shopping. And this is while I was still working mostly full time at Woolies. And I was just walking along, and somebody had ordered garbage bags, so many types of garbage bags, and then all the little bags as well, the freezer bags. And I'm just here looking at the order list, and I'm like, yeah, you murdered someone last night. At that moment, a customer walks around and they do the same. Look at me and just turn around slowly and just head off to the next aisle. So that sort of thing, that happens a lot, more than I would like to admit. But yeah, specifically with the between books, not really. It's just I tend to be an unfortunate person in public.
I think that kind of happens with authors more than we would like to admit. Like my funny, I don't know if you want to call it quirk, but whenever I finish a book, specifically when I finish editing a book, because that's in my mind like when it's done. Yeah, like and the first draft, because after that I still have to send it off to like my editor and stuff like that. But she mostly just catches typos and things like that. So most of the work is done after I do that first edit. But so always without fail, as soon as I send it off, like you will find me face down in one of my dog's dog beds, because it's like I'm so tired. I just go like drop straight to the ground and like army crawl over to her beds, because she's got like 5 of them scattered around the house. So no matter where I am, those are always closest. So, and then I'll usually fall asleep for anywhere from like 2 to 3 hours, usually until my dog wakes me up, because she's like, okay, I want to sleep, get out. So yes, that's probably my funny a quirk.
I do dramas when I'm done, like when I'm finished a book, end of first draft, and end of the edits, before typo hunting and beta readers. I just crash, do nothing. I'm like a zombie for 2 days, and I just watch K-drama. And technically, it's okay because it's kind of study, so it's kind of okay. But yeah, that's how I crash. I sort of turn my brain off and just keep the learning Korean part on, and that's about it.
Yeah. That's kind of what I do too, except I just sleep on my dog's beds. But yours is probably more helpful. I always end up with like hair in the weirdest places, then like I'm picking it out of like my teeth that night. But okay, we have a question from Amy. She is wondering, where does all the different shades of blue fall in the series? And I know personally as a fan, I know that it hasn't happened yet, but
it hasn't happened yet. First of all, I am so sorry. I am such a mess of an author. I keep on writing things out of order. I don't mean to inflict it on the general public. I really don't. It just happens that way. Like when I write out of order as well. I usually have the last chapter written first, and then it's just bits and pieces in the middle till I join it up. So when I was writing these stories, it was just exciting things that I wanted to do or ideas I wanted to explore. Like Shades of Blue comes from one of my favorite Leverage episodes where Parker is injured and above stairs, and they have the cafe diner type thing below. and she has to help foil a robbery or figure out what's going on. And I love that format so much. I was like, I want to do that. And it was perfect with Pet. And also, I wanted a different point of view on her. So when I wrote that, it was just because I wanted to explore a really cool idea and I wanted to be able to see Pet from someone else's eyes. So it was that kind of a thing. So I didn't really think about where I was putting it and how difficult I would make things for people. In terms of where it actually fits, um, Cloudy with a Chance is between book 4 and book 5, I believe. And I'm pretty sure that that Different Shades of Blue is between 5 and 6. I'm pretty sure it's either between 5 and 6 or 6 and 7. I'm actually not entirely sure. It keeps changing a little bit based on me moving events into another book and bringing some from a further book into the book I'm working on. So it's a little bit up in the air, but it has yet to happen.
I was really excited that you did write it though, and that I got to read it before I got to the end of book 4. Otherwise, I probably would have broke my Kindle throwing it, just being honest, because so all the Different Shades of Blue came out before, and I actually hadn't read Cloudy with the Chance of Drop Bears before. I don't know how I missed that. I was so thrilled when I saw it come out on Amazon. I think it was like last week or the week before. I was like, yeah! So I was very glad you had written it once I got to the end of book 4. The night it came out, it was like, you've got to be kidding me. So yes, for your well-being and on behalf of your fans, it's probably just as well you wrote that out of order. Let's see here. Just checking to make sure we don't have any more questions in the comments. Let's see. Oh yeah. Carl is wondering if we'll see characters from the novellas in future books.
Oh yes, definitely. You'll definitely see the leprechaun. I think his name is 541. For some reason, I have incredible difficulty remembering his name, which is so bad of me as an author. Yeah, 541. I'm pretty sure that's his name. He'll be definitely appearing in later ones, and Marisol will definitely be appearing after the time when he actually fits into the series. He'll be in the books following. So they're all definitely going to make an appearance. It's just a matter of sliding them in the correct timeline. Because I could even slightly rearrange some things so that the Marisol events happen earlier. I'm just not entirely sure yet with books 5 and 6. There are some things I'm still switching around between the two of them plot-wise. So yeah, but it is very, very soon. And
okay, that's exciting. I really liked him. He has like some of my favorite lines. Like, well, I say that, but like everybody does. But I love it though when he basically is like, "Oh, it's a shame you're already adopted. Otherwise, because we work so great together." I just love that that attitude. That is such a behind kind attitude.
Yes, it really. They're such horrible people.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, okay. Let's see. Double check.
I actually said that Cloudy is between 4 and 5. That's wrong. It's between 5 and 6. Wow. No.
Oh, okay.
I just finished. Well done, me.
I don't know how it is though. Like that's the problem when you start like writing other books, or like when you are like in the process of writing stuff. Because I'm tackling a series right now, and so I wrote 1, 2, 3 at the like all in a row, which I don't necessarily usually do. So 2 was coming out as I was working on 3, and I was having a little bit of a mental crisis because it's like, what day is it? I don't know what's going on. Yeah, which book is this? So no, totally understandable. We'll overlook that. One thing I wanted to ask you was, so for those of you guys who haven't been following around on the website, we did weekly discussion posts where we would end up kind of like talking about our theories and stuff. And this was something I was really excited to do just because I've been wanting to talk about this. And so I was going to ask you, which of like all the theories and discussions, what parts did you like most, or what parts made you laugh, or were we at all close?
For me, I get a lot of fun out of the shipping narratives, especially out of the person who said they were abandoning ship and jumping into the sea. That made me laugh so much. I also laughed a lot at the person who said something about saving somebody's seating accommodation, which is just a delightful turn of phrase and made my day completely. But so I get a lot of delight, honestly, out of the shipping comments because when I first started writing this series, it honestly never occurred to me that that would be a thing. Because I had such a clear idea in my head of each of the relationships and the type of relationship it is, and the different type of love that it would portray. It just honestly never occurred to me that there would be this thing. And so it's been so much fun. And I'm sorry to take joy in and delight in people's struggles to pin down something, but it's honestly delightful to me. I didn't expect it, so it's a lot of fun. Um,
I
so
was going to say real quick, it has been really cool too. I know I said this on the website, but I'll just say it again too for the people who are watching. I think this is one of the first series where I've ever shipped friendships. Like that doesn't normally happen to me. I don't sit there and I'm like, oh, it'd be so fun if these characters became like besties. Like that's just not something I do. So it was super fun. And we kind of discussed that in the comments too about how like it's a little unusual that we have ships for friendships too. So that I think is also just a super high compliment to your writing too, obviously, because you've really pulled it off.
I'm very pleased with that. It makes me very happy because that's actually something that I've learned from K-dramas, believe it or not. There's so much bad about K-dramas, there really is. But they do so much really, really well. And one of the things they do exceptionally well is portrayal of friendships, not necessarily between women. I find that still very stereotypical and unhealthy in general. But between the male characters, particularly the male lead and whatever other, the second male lead, if they're not actually antagonists, the friendships that they have are delightfully done. Like they're properly plotted out and they're given all the space they need. And that was something that I wanted to address more in my writing. Like I've always wanted friendships as well as lovers and enemies and whatever else, but I really wanted to be able to have that believable depth of friendship. So that sort of compliment, it makes me very, very happy. So yeah, I'm really pleased with that.
Well, you definitely deserve it. So Mary is wondering if you have any alternative point of view novellas planned for the future.
I actually never plan them exactly. It just sort of somehow happens. Like when I was doing my card caper Monday for the second series, I ended up doing tiny little bite-sized fiction from that world as well. And they weren't necessarily planned, it just came up. I can say that there definitely will be more because my brain seems to work like that. But they're not exactly planned. There's nothing really very planned about the way I work in general. So yeah, that they'll come out occasionally, but it won't be at regular or reasonable intervals.
Well, that'll work for us. They're nice treats, but we still want those main books.
Yeah, you want the ones and the main ones. The other ones are a fun distraction in the meantime. For me, anyway.
Yeah, they are for us too. Obviously, I say us as the readers. Yep, we're now a ship. I'm sorry, I'm trying to look up my additional questions that I had. And let's see. Oh, Carl just came up with one. He said, how hard was it to write the Psycho's dialogue to only disclose such cryptic information? And Carl, we're lifting the spoiler ban, so yeah, we can call them the Troika. Am I even saying that right, Wendy? Are they the Troika?
I think it's Troika. I know there's an actual pronunciation, but sometimes I'm also a bad author in that way, in that I'll just be like, yeah, that'll do. I'll just call it that in my head, and I don't actually get the right pronunciation. So there's that. But yeah, Troika, as far as I know, that's how you pronounce it. As far as I know. Wait, what was the question? I forgot.
Oh, it's okay. So Carl asks, let's see, how hard is it to write the Psycho's dialogue to only disclose such cryptic information? So I think like part of it too, and I've noticed this, is like you manage to keep the Psychos talking to one another without like, and they understand each other, but yet we don't necessarily understand what they're saying. Like I think the perfect example is when they were first figuring out that Pet was there, when Zero is talking to Athelius. Now, how do we pronounce his name too?
Athelas.
Okay, that's how I was saying it first, but then I was like, I'm always saying character names wrong. So
his name's my favorite font. People think, oh, is that from Lord of the Rings, like the King's foil? I'm like, no. I would love to say yes, but no. It's my favorite font.
Nice. That is awesome. Favorite font. Epic. Oh, okay. But yes. So, how do you, is it really difficult to write that though? Like where they know what's going on, but Pet doesn't, and you can convey it so it's in a believable manner, not so it sounds like you're purposely not having them say things just because you don't want us, the reader or Pet, to know.
I actually don't know how that happens. I know I do. I think it's because as an author, I do know the things that need to be said, but I also know how much information needs to be withheld in order to keep the status quo or keep Pet in the dark. I also know the characters very, very well at this point. So in some ways they sort of speak by themselves. It's all in keeping with their particular characters. Like Jin Yong is very, very easy to sort out in that way. If I don't want people to understand what he's saying, I just have him talking in Korean, whether it's as romanized or whether it's just said that he says something in Korean. So he's incredibly easy. And so in that way, I can control the narrative in letting just enough information fall and it doesn't seem contrived, or at least I hope it doesn't. With Athalas, he's such a closed person anyway that no matter who he's talking to, he's always being careful. And with Zero, he just doesn't want to talk at all. He's such a pain in the neck. Um, so it's kind of easy that way, but I honestly can't tell you exactly how I do it because sometimes it actually surprises me as well. Um, So yeah, I'm afraid I can't give a really good answer there because sometimes it feels like it just writes itself, and things just fall out that way. But I am in a position of more knowledge than the reader. So what seems to the reader to be, really intricately threaded and plotted and conversation done really well. I've had literally days and weeks to think about it, and I do make little tweaks here and there, especially in editing. Like I'll do several passes of small edits. So I will tweak things like just one word or one turn of phrase so that it can mean one thing or the other. I've also always loved puns and wordplay. So in terms of meanings being different and giving the idea of different meanings than actually are, that's something that I've always loved. So it kind of comes naturally to me, I guess. I also love words a lot. So I spend a lot of time trying to think about how to use the best words, as few of them, as effectively as possible. So I guess in some ways it is something I've worked hard for, but in other ways now it's so much a matter of fact that I don't really think about it. So yeah, I'm afraid that's not a very satisfactory answer, but it's about the closest I can get to what I do.
It helps. I think that's a good point too about your characters. Because if you had like a really chatty character, I think then it would be difficult to keep everything screened just because they wouldn't shut up. They'd just keep going. So
We
that
do
makes
actually
sense
have
to me
one
as
of
well.
those. Yes, she was a real pain in the neck, but she was also very fun. So
Nice. Okay. Amy is wondering, let's see, will there end up being information about the main character's background or will you be doing some kind of prequels? And I'm assuming she probably means Psychos because I heavily suspect, though I will not make you confirm, that Pet's background is going to come in all of this. And we've gotten a little taste of it now in book 4, but I wouldn't mind a prequel.
I don't think there will be a prequel. I say that, but I have sometimes actually gone back and done one when I got a really good idea. So I don't think there will be because most of Zero's backstory, Athalas's backstory, and Jinyon's backstory, all of them as well as Pet's backstory, will come out in the series eventually. So I don't think there will. I am sort of thinking that there will be maybe a spin-off series or maybe just a spin-off book or two because I have some ideas I want to explore with one of the main characters. So I'll probably do that. Um, but yeah, in terms of prequels, probably not. I won't say I definitely won't, but probably not.
Okay, yeah, spin-off series. That sounds intriguing. We're not gonna, okay, champions, we're not gonna press her on who it is because we already know that she's keeping it locked up tight on who she likes and who Pet's gonna end up with and all that kind of stuff. So we're gonna have to be patient, which isn't really, doesn't excite me, but by the time we reach the end of the series, we'll be glad that we waited. All right, let me double check we don't have any new questions. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Yep, nope, nothing new. I thought it would be kind of fun though, just to mention. I think, Wendy, I think I ended up meeting you. I know last year we ended up using one of your fairy tales actually as like a recommended book from our summer reading program, which that was super fun. But it really was the City Between series was what made me like be like, I'm gonna message her because she has to know how amazing this series is. I have to tell her. Because for those of you guys who also don't know, Shariel Tapscott and Kenley Davidson and I had a little like group chat session going on where we just talked about this series for like a week straight. So that was when I decided that I was going to message Wendy. But I think that was the first time we ended up interacting though was last year for the summer reading program. Am I right?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, I'm very bad with keeping up with people online. So I had actually seen you out and about on the indie circuit for ages, like for ages and ages, because like you're one of the indies who were doing things really, really well. And I was always seeing you everywhere. So when you actually messaged me about City Between, I was like, oh my goodness, I'm being noticed by important people.
I don't know if I'm important, but
So that was really fun for me.
yeah, well, it's a great series. I mean, obviously, we've been talking about it this entire time, but yes, I absolutely love it. I was actually a little afraid that I was going to freak you out because it was like, how far can I like fangirl gush over this and like not set off her like warning bells? So
No,
I'm glad it worked out.
honestly, whenever I go out, even online, I attract really weird people. So you have to be extremely weird to freak me out. No, I'm serious. Anywhere I travel, if I go to Melbourne, if I go to Korea, if I go to Sydney or Brisbane, Mackay, although honestly, Mackay is full of weird people. But anyway, all the weird people, they approach me. And online also, I get a lot of weird people. So my spectrum of weird is like up here. You have to be extremely weird for me to get freaked out.
That's hilarious. Oh, and that's right. You recently took a trip to Korea, right?
Yeah, yeah, I had a lot of fun. I don't travel well, so I always do not look forward to the actual travel part of it because I quite often end up throwing up on the plane, which is
Oh,
so much fun.
yeah.
So much fun for the people next to me as well, honestly. But I traveled really well this time on the way there. And I was actually there to do some research for the City Between books and also for the next Lady book. Yeah, so I had to do some topographical research, walking around, seeing the old parts of Korea that were blended with the new. And when I say old, the parts I mostly looked at were from the 90s, or from 80s through 90s, and that. So it was so interesting to see all that. Also, I was there to practice my language skills, which are not incredibly high. I'm sort of a low intermediate level, so I can hold conversations with people. I just sound like a little kid. But mostly I can be understood. Yeah, they look at me like that too. It's like, oh my goodness, it's so cute. It can speak.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Like, it's really nice.
And you've said that in the past that like some of your stuff is kind of inspired by K-drama. Like I think
Mm.
actually one of my readers mentioned that Lady of Dreams was inspired by K-dramas or has
Yeah,
that kind of
that
feel.
whole series. I have honestly, as a writer, I have learned so much from K-drama. It's incredibly different from Western TV, not just in the morals and the types of relationships, but the way they structure it, like the way it's actually written. It's completely different. Every now and then I get this bright, shining drama that is amazing, like everything about it's well done. For the most part, it's like Western TV. There's bad things and good things, and you find irritating things. But the good things that really struck me were the way they would end each episode so that they would finish the main thread, but there would be something that made you want to go on to the next one. So I wanted to do that. But I also, like I said before, the thing about friendships being a really strong force in there, um, that was a thing I really wanted to work on. So there was lots of that. in a pure writing craft sense that I learned, but also when it comes to which that stuff I use for the city between. I know you guys are probably a little bit um, frustrated at the sort of cliffhanger ends of each of them, but you can blame K drama for that because I learned it from K drama. Um, but in terms of actual direct influence, the Lady series is my K drama series because they're fantasy romance. And normally I don't do just plain romance. It was a little bit scary for me, honestly, because writing romance is very hard and also different from other kinds because all the development and all the beats have to be concerned with the interpersonal relationship, even though something can be going on as well in the background. So for me, it was incredibly fulfilling because I got to explore more of the inner side of my characters, but also very hard. And with Lady of Dreams in particular, um, I took as many of the tropes out of K drama, like the ones I really hated, and I just messed with them. Like I threw them in there and I mixed it up and I just played around with it, and it was so much fun. In particular, in that particular book, there are a lot of nods to a K drama called You Were Beautiful. I've got like about 3 or 4 scenes where it's a direct nod, or what do we call it? It's not a pineapple. Oh my goodness, why did I think it's a pineapple? Easter egg. Easter egg.
Yeah, that's it.
That is H.L. Burke's fault, because she likes pineapples and we were talking about Easter egg spoilers. So my mind made that connection.
Well, otherwise there's that TV show Psych too, where they would hide the pineapple. That's
Yes.
an American TV
Also
show.
a TV show of mine.
Yeah, I like that one too. I actually really like K dramas too. I think for the last like 2 years, I've been getting more into them. But actually, before this, I was it's actually kind of ironic because I am much more Japanese inspired. Because I have been big time into like video games. I used to be into anime and manga, and I actually took Japanese. So I used to be an intermediate speaker. I'm not that good anymore, but I can still understand actually reasonably well. But yeah, so that's so cool that we have that like kind of similar mirror. I'm just Japan, and mine wasn't really so much with the relationships as much as it was like they taught, like looking at Japanese inspired stuff taught me how to do humor, and then fighting. Those were the 2 huge things that I really pulled away. So.
Fighting, I need to learn a lot about that because I look up most of my fighting stuff. Like I know some things because honestly, I love Jackie Chan and I love fight scenes. In fact, Elliot from Leverage, the TV show I mentioned earlier, he's one of my favorite fighters. He is this short, chunky little dude, and I absolutely love him because in general, you'll see fight scenes where the dude is really big or got a really long reach. But because this guy's shorter and he has a really powerful short punch, they tailor the fight scenes, or he tailors his fight scenes to work with his strength. And that's something I really love about that series. So most of my learning of that is from like TV and looking things up and learning. I had to learn how to give an uppercut for 12 Days of Fairy, along with a lot of other things. But I actually want to do some studying. Next time I go to Korea, I want to go to, they have some special Taekwondo classes. So I want to attend those. But I also want to do some sword fighting and some archery classes. Just one second. I think someone's knocking on my door.
Okay. We'll take this moment.
Okay.
And I'll just remind you guys, anybody who wants to leave a question, go ahead and do so in the comments and we will get to them. Vivian says that she'll have to read the K-dramas and she's currently in Korea, so that's really cool. But jumping back to what you were saying though, the Wendy, I actually took archery class, not lessons. I took an archery class. So, and we both need to say, I love Leverage too. So if you guys haven't seen Leverage, it's really cool. It's not
writing, directing, everything that I've seen. It's just amazing.
It has amazing characters, amazing humor. Like each episode is really, really good. And it has been canceled. Like the show is over, but it still was really good. So if you guys haven't seen it, it's Leverage, like literally Leverage. I think I spelled that correctly. But yeah, so highly recommend that one. And
And they ended on
this,
their own terms too. Like they finished up the storyline completely properly. Not many shows,
yeah,
they're like, oh, we may get another series, and they end on a cliffhanger. I hate all of you who do that. Please stop. End your shows properly. So
yeah, it was really cool because they have like a neat ending too, where you're like, oh. So I highly recommend. It will not disappoint you. So, but while we're kind of like on this topic, before we get back to any questions you guys might have, I'm gonna ask, what are your that was, I just said that weirdly. What are your top what's the term, recommended K dramas? Because I actually have seen You're Beautiful. Is that the one with the
it is
girl who ends up joining a boy band?
yes, it's awful. It's very, very awful.
I've seen it, so I mean, I liked it. But see, that's where I always get so mad because I ended up liking the wrong guy.
You liked Sinu as well, didn't you?
Yes, I was so
Yep.
mad. It was like, wah, 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 and they'd get you so close, like you could just feel it. There actually is another series where the two characters that I wanted to end up together,
Yeah.
they were in a different series, and I
Right.
watched it just because I wanted to see them end up
But I
together.
hated that character, that male character. I hated him so much when he was in the other one. But actually, that boy, his name is Chung Yong-hwa. He's actually the lead in one of the bands I listened to. When I first started learning Korean, I was
Mhm.
looking for music to listen to, and I found CM Blue. So I actually have listened to him sing, which is lovely. But yeah,
Oh, wow.
I was the same with that drama. I actually don't like the drama very much in the terms that I found it very frustrating like that. But the main actor, the main male actor, he is very, very good. I hated him, but he's very, very good.
Yeah, yeah, he is really good. Well, so high five for having a similar K drama taste. But so besides You're Beautiful, what other ones would you recommend?
So my top all-time favorites, first one is Beating Again. It's about a man who receives a new heart. And when I read the description, I was like, this is a rom-com. It's not a rom-com. It's some of the best writing I've seen, and it features a female character, a female lead character who's actually good, like an actual good person who just keeps doing the right thing and keeps doing the right thing. And I love her a lot. So Beating Again is the first. It's on Netflix. You can find it. It's very easy to find. Um, then another one of my second favorites is called Flower Boys Next Door, and I know that's a dreadful title. It also features Park Shin-hye, who is from You're Beautiful as well. She's one of my favorite actresses. I think she's lovely. She has a lovely face, and her smile makes me happy. So I love seeing stuff with her in it. Flower Boys Next Door, it features an editor who is um, housebound and all the supposedly beautiful boys who live next door. I honestly don't think they're that beautiful. But then I actually don't like beautiful men in general. I have trouble recognizing faces. So if someone is beautiful, it usually means they're proportionate, which means I can't remember their faces. So
Is that where Pet gets your disdain
yes,
sometimes?
yes, that was one of the things I gave Pet because if a man is beautiful, it irritates me, especially if he's very tidy. I want to mess with him. I want to make his hair untidy or upset his tie. It really irritates me. I'm a bad person. So I gave that to Pet, and Jin Yong has to suffer the consequences, but he's kind of annoying, so
He gives as good as he gets.
yeah. So there's that one. Particularly in Flower Boys Next Door, it also has a writer. And I mention this because this is the show out of all K dramas that breaks the fourth wall. It does it very sneakily, but it does it. You have to watch it. The writer character is one of my favorites. I really, really like that actor, but also the character is hilarious. I loved it. Um, there's one called Cheer Up that's a high school one. Again, it features a determined and very lovely female lead. I don't love the male lead much, mostly because I find him untrustworthy. He's not necessarily, but on an emotional level, I find him untrustworthy. However, I loved the drama; it was really well done. Lately, I have been. Oh, there's Mask. I love this one. I don't know whether you guys love this trope. I love it. I adore it. It's when there's a married couple who don't know each other and have to learn to work together, especially if it's in very dangerous circumstances, which is basically Mask. High drama, incredibly high drama, and it leaves you sort of gasping and wrung at the end of it, but totally worth watching just as you watch each of the main characters fight their own battles because they are in a very dangerous situation. One of them has been manipulated into the marriage to facilitate someone else's bringing down this particular man that she's married to, and he's fighting against all the things that are fighting to bring him down as well. So little bit by little bit, they're fighting their own battles, learning to trust each other, and coming closer together. And it's lovely. I love it. I haven't finished it yet. That's a mark of things I really love. I take ages to finish them. So there's that one. And lately, I'm watching one that's called Tugo Toa, which I think is sort of basically it's fine even if you die, it's fine, or even if I die, it's fine. And this guy keeps dying over and over again, but it's not necessarily his story. It's the main female lead story as well, because she's trying to stop him dying over and over. But he's an awful person, like a legitimately awful person. So every time someone wishes that he would die, he ends up dying. And so she has to be like, no, stop being an awful person. And the reason I love it so much is because...
Sorry, guys. That's the perfect dog. Okay, go ahead.
Because in this case, in general, in K-dramas, you have a thing where the female lead exists mainly as somebody to spur the male lead on to greatness, which it's okay if the drama is from his point of view because it would be his story. But if that's all she is, then she's not a character. She's just a thing. And that irritates me. But in this case, a lot of his growth comes not just from her talking to him, but someone else saying something later or something happening. And you can see the little cogs moving in his mind to be like, am I really like this? Is this more than one person thinks this? And it's delightful. And the last one I'm watching is Miss Ma, which is basically Korean Miss Marple. If Miss Marple could garrot people with her circular knitting needles, which gave me great joy. And it has a slightly portly gangster, and he has dimples, and he's adorable, and I love him a lot because he was the one that got garroted, and he was so offended. And I feel very sorry for him, but she garroted him with knitting needles. I mean, come on. This makes me very happy.
I could see Pat doing something like that.
Except she's not a great knitter, so
yeah, that's true. Well, yeah. Opportunity, she'd probably just like stab him with them.
She's more a melee fighter. She'd sort of get scared and then starts fighting, and things go very wildly bad from that point on, because I'm not actually a very good fighter myself. I get like a single focus. I don't know if you know or not, but in my job at Woolworths, I was in a very rough store. So we've had several occasions where I've had to fight off shoplifters or like literal fights. And we had to fight at the service desk one day. And I think one of the women was about twice the size of me in height. And there was one, and they were fighting, and I was literally trying to keep them apart. I found out afterward that while I was doing that, I didn't realize until afterward I had like red marks around my neck. And the cops, when they came, they're like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I think it was just my scarf. And that had been torn off and thrown away somewhere while I was trying to stop these women from murdering each other. And someone came up afterward and they're like, it was from your scarf, but that woman was actually on your back hanging around your neck. And I'm like, what? And I literally, like, I knew that things were moving slowly and it was really hard to keep them apart. But I had no idea that there was somebody actually trying to strangle me from behind. Because
oh my gosh. Wow.
So I think Pet has a little bit of that berserker mentality where she loses sight of everything except the one thing she's fighting. So that was a fun thing to give her, but it does mean that her fighting style is somewhat erratic. So yeah, she needs to work on that, I think.
That is understandable. So real quick, Carl, want to double check, what's the name of the show about the married couples again? I think you said that was Mask.
Mask, yeah. You have to make sure you get the right one though, because I think there are 2 Korean dramas called Mask. This one will it should give you a synopsis of it if you look it up on Wikipedia or something like that. But it's an incredibly good drama, totally worth watching.
Excellent. And then Rebecca, hello, Rebecca. I don't think you've said anything yet this hour. So she was saying that she wants a Jin Young. Am I saying that right? How would you
Jin Yong. I stole it from a K-pop star because I had no idea of what names to use, so I was just literally picking famous people's names.
Nice. Yeah. Well, unfortunately, I put Japanese spin on all of them because that's my gut instinct. But okay. And then Dave, who's one of my characters from what's called My Life at the Magical Beans Rehabilitation
I love
Center.
That was so much fun.
That would be like, I'm pretty sure Jin would kill Dave just because he would be so offended by the fact of Dave's existence. That he's like bald and not tidy and kind of whiny. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, he would definitely be annoyed. It could possibly proceed to a murderous stage with Jin Yong. He's an awful person too.
Oh yeah. David isn't awful. He's just annoying and not afraid to
really
tell people how annoyed he is.
I really liked him. I thought he was a great character. He was one of the ones I actually enjoyed most of the way through that. It was just so much ridiculous fun, and he was just so obstinately balding and sick of things. And yeah, it was fun.
I think my favorite line I ever wrote with him in it is when they're like on the train going to Chicago to get to the MBRC to go underground, and they talk about Morgan talks about how like first they couldn't like sit in one car because there was someone smoking, and then he like almost sneezed his eyeballs out because he was still sick from the smoke, and it was just ridiculous. And that very well encompasses what he's like and why Jin would kill him. Okay. Let's see. Caitlin says, let's see. Wendy, you talked in an interview about the inspiration for City Between series. I don't think she got to finish that. So Caitlin will let you repost that. And Lynn is asking, how many years or how much time will the Between series span?
I'm actually not sure until I've written it. In terms of personally me writing them, they'll be done in a couple of years. But in terms of in the book time, I think Pet should be close to 19 by the time the books are done. So it'll be roughly a couple of years between the start and the end of the actual series.
She's 17 now, right?
She was 17 at the start of the books, getting very close to being 18. Like she was, I think, 3 or 4 months off being 18 in the first book. It's never very clearly stated, but in the timeline that I've gone through in writing the books, each book seems to take place over the course of like a week or two. And then there's about a month in between-ish. So, yeah, she was only just still 17 at the start of the first book.
Okay.
And she's definitely 18 now by the end of the fourth book.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm. Don't know how I forgot that. Okay. And see if Caitlin finished her question. I don't see it.
Actually, asking about the 18-year-old thing. They're like, oh, is it significant, because of Pet just turning 18? Honestly, it's not. I'm just a person who loves presents. So birthdays are very important to me.
Oh, yeah.
That's all it is. But Pet doesn't get given presents, so she just sort of has to celebrate on her own, and that is sort of sad for her. But that in general, if I mention a birthday in my books, is not necessarily, I mean, it could be one day. It's not necessarily because it's important. It's because I love birthdays. I want presents. I love presents. So yeah, birthdays are important to me.
That's awesome. I love birthdays too. Like I like to have like a birthday, not like a birthday month, but yeah, kind of, because then I can have maximum cake.
Birthday week, yep, you eat cake the entire time. Birthday week.
Yes, yeah. I've actually friends where they're like, oh, we can all get together. And I'm like, no, that doesn't work for me. I need you all to stay separate. That way I can have like 5 different flavors of cake over the next 2 weeks. Like we have a schedule to keep people. Come on.
Especially if you can make cakes.
Yes, I love cake. Okay.
Apart from that theory, I loved reading all the theories. People are so clever. They got a lot of things right. And I'm just thinking, like one thing out of a whole bunch that they would say would be right. And I'd be like, you got it. You won't know until the end of the series, so you still have to wait. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. We have our ships. We can tread water together. But let's see. Caitlin did finish her question. She said she meant to ask what inspired you to start writing urban fantasy now, because in the interview you talked about how like you were inspired to do like the between behind kind of thing by seeing stuff out of the corner of your eyes. So what made you make the full leap over though to urban fantasy?
Well, to my mind, it couldn't be anything but urban fantasy in the sense that it's still part of the real world. It did help that coming up to when I was thinking about starting writing this series, I actually had a dream. I have story dreams regularly where an actual whole story will take place, which is a lot of fun. And this was one segment of one of those that changed through a couple stories where I was actually between. And I think I was with Zero at that point. And the umbrella was there. Um, and yeah, we were fighting our way through. And when we were in the real world, I had to make sure that whatever I was using as a weapon was a real world thing so that we wouldn't be noticed and stopped. So I knew it had to have that component of real world because if it doesn't, then I don't know, it's less fun. I love fantasy and I love fantasy worlds, but for me, the joy of urban fantasy is the sudden, unexpected. Like you're just going about your day as normal, and then you walk through a door, and suddenly something is trying to kill you, or there's an amazing creature, or something unexpected happens. And I love that. So I always knew it had to be urban fantasy, it couldn't be anything else. And
That
also, art's lovely, and I wanted to introduce it to the world. I just have to work a little bit more of the locale in, I think.
Yeah, it's really fun. Like I've seen several different Fae books kind of have that urban fantasy edge, but I feel like you really have like what feels like more of like the urban fantasy edge that we know. That might also be though because you've included like vampires and werewolves and that kind of thing. Let's
Yeah,
see.
exactly.
CL says, is wondering, will fan theories ever change the direction of your books? As in an aha moment that becomes a great idea and is then used in your writing. Oh, and then Rebecca, similarly, Rebecca is wondering if either of us read people's theories and think, oh no, they got it right, I should change it. So I guess do they affect you one way or the other? Do they make you be like, that's a good idea? Or like, nope, now we gotta like not do that.
No, not really. I love to read them, and I love seeing how clever people are, but even if I can see that that would be a cool idea to explore, it's like that's a different it's kind of like when you got multiverse theory, it could happen in another world, and I love that, but it's not what I'm doing. So, even if people get it right, no, that's fine, that's good. In fact, I had some sisters send me a bunch of hilarious book titles that they claimed were potential book titles that were complete jokes and just synopses for those books. And actually, one or two of those picked up on a couple things that I will be doing later in the series. And even if it's stuff like that, is like this is fun, but I'm still going to do because I have an idea of what I want to do with it. I still want to go along those lines. If people get it right, then you get bragging rights afterward. You've done really well.
Yeah, I think it's pretty similar to me. It's actually, honestly, guys, it's a good sign if someone is able to guess correctly. Just because if nobody guesses correctly, then you probably haven't done your job in making like the story and like the momentum and where it's going clear enough. So I mean, you don't want everybody to guess because you obviously want some good twists and stuff like
Yeah,
that. But I
but
have found out in the past that it's a good idea. It's a good sign if people are, or at least if they're kind of close, because there's some timeless fairy tale stuff that you guys have gotten close to that you've brushed, and it relieves me honestly because it means like, okay, you guys are on the trail, so that means that the tracks are laid. This is going great. So usually I view it more as a good thing.
yeah.
But let's see. And then Carl has another question. See, it sounds like he said, let's see, yeah, it sounds like you don't do a lot of rewriting for scenes or dialogue as you draft. And says, I teach journalism, so I'm really interested in the writing process. So I think the question is basically like, how do you pull this off? And I'm going to leave you to answer the question. I got to go check on my dog real quick because I just think she got
All
into
right.
something. So I'll be right back.
Okay. Okay. So when it comes to my writing process, I originally did a lot of rewriting as I wrote. So I would write a page for the day, and then the next day I would come back and I would edit it and go through and rewrite and retouch. So when I first started out, I did that a lot. But as I kept writing, I found that I did it less and less. Not necessarily because it wasn't a way that worked for me, but because I would more often write the thing the way I wanted it written the first time. Because I'd had more experience, I could more comfortably uh, write exactly what I wanted to write. So I do still do um, edits as I write, but they tend to be fairly light. And then I will get to the end of the book and I will do a quick run over to fix continuity things that jump out straight away and to add threads in earlier in the book for something I realized at the end of the book needed to be happening. I do that a lot. I'll be about two-thirds of the way through the book and realize, oh, I actually wanted this thing to be happening, or this is a good idea. So then I go back and thread it all the way through the narrative till it meets up. So I do that before I send it off. But in general, I do less editing now as I'm writing than I used to. I'd still do a little bit, but it's much, much lighter because in general, I usually write the first time what I meant to write um, the whole way along. So yeah, I think the experience helps.
Yeah, I just heard the tail end of that part, but that's kind of how I am too. I hate
Mm.
rewriting. It seems like it's just a lot of unnecessary work. So usually I'm a huge plotter now and I get everything laid out before, and then that way I don't have to at least do like the big intensive stuff, because that's what really eats your time. Like the typos and stuff are a little easier to handle. But we do have a couple more questions, but unfortunately the hour is up. If we ask Wendy nicely, though, she might answer in the comments. So we
Yeah.
can hope. But yes, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Hopefully we'll be able to do something like this again. Wendy, it's been so much fun. Thank you for hanging out with us for this past month.
Oh, thanks for having me, guys. I really had a great time and I loved reading all your comments. Thank you so much for taking the time to actually do that. And yeah, it's been fun. Thanks.
Yeah, well, thank you for writing such an amazing series. Yep, everybody's saying bye. So we're going to head out. Thanks again, guys, for tuning in and for joining us on the 2019 summer reading program. And hopefully we'll be able to do this again. Maybe we can do an update once like more books come out so we can discuss more possible theories. Yes, yes, because I know I mentioned to you guys when I was first getting this program started, but Merlin is basically like not going to talk about the series anymore. You've like it's eaten hours of our lives, so you guys are my only hope. But all right, thanks for listening again, champions, and we'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.